All right.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yo, mic check, mic check. Switch tracks and get on a train of thought and find musings at five. With everything from entertainment, information, and more. So much to talk about, so much to say. It's five musings at five on the Snooze Drive every weekday at 5 p.m. on Smooth 98.1.
You are our new talk and music station. Everything you need.
Feed your mind and the rest will follow.
You start with figuring out what does health look like for me, physically, mentally, emotionally, and work really hard on being good at you.
Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy life. Soul Food on Smooth 98.1.
And we are live on Soul Food on Smooth 98.1. You are very welcome. Chances are that if you're listening to this, you care about your health and your wellness. And that is the first congratulations we're telling you. Congratulations on taking your health seriously, because health is such an underrated form of wealth. You might not know how much you are wealthy until you fall sick and you have to pay bills in the hospital. Then you realize, oh, I had money. So welcome to Soul Food. It's the show, part of the show on Saturdays that runs for 30 minutes that talks about your health and wellness, like I have said. And we like it when you prevent situations, when you prevent those conditions from happening. So your lifestyle choices are of utmost importance in that. Now, for that to happen, you need knowledge. And that's why we share these things. Today, we want to talk about medications. We want to talk about drugs, from the misuse to the abuse to the overuse, to the disuse, non-use, if there are other words like that. We need to talk about some frequently asked questions about medications, malaria, and the likes. And you know, Nigeria is such a malaria-loving country. When I say that, this is what I mean. Anytime a person has any form of fever, they say, oh, I have malaria. And not just malaria, malaria and typhoid. I'm not sure why we came up with that. It's like they're CMS twins and they just like the sound of it. It's not always the case. But anyways, today we'll be discussing a number of things about medications. Now, if you have any question in the course of the conversation, the WhatsApp line is available to you. WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981. Again, WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. And we're streaming live on YouTube as well. YouTube is at Smooth 91 FM. That is the handle. I think you should subscribe so that whenever we go live, you can get the notification. So getting into the crux of the matter, let's talk about medications. And to do justice to that, I have a pharmacist who is very much into educating you and helping you to understand better some of these drugs, well, not the brand name, but at least your health and the interaction that goes on within your body, your do's and don'ts when you have to take medications. And I say he's passionate about the gospel of healthcare. So he is the medical director, Best Option Pharmacy and Medical Clinic. And he is Pharmacist Gerald. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
For being here. And I can't wait to dig into the conversation, starting now. So I want to start with the basics.
Sure. Fire away, fire away.
I remember those days when we started learning how to take drugs. Some were bitter, some were not. Some you just hated the taste of it. Some came with aftertaste. And for some people to be able to swallow the pills or the drugs, sometimes they would wrap it in swallows. They'll put it in a bar. Some would take it with carbonated drinks because they don't like the aftertaste, maybe because it was bitter or not. So now here is the question. If you take your drugs with carbonated drinks or you put it in a swallow, will it reduce the effectiveness of the drug?
Well, first, the most important point there is it depends on the drug, which is why you always have to ask your pharmacist or your doctor before doing that. In fact, it should be in your prescription of how to take it, right? There are some drugs that the effect is reduced with food, and there's some drugs that the effects are potentiated. That means the effect is higher with food. So it always depends on the drug, in question. Now, for carbonated drinks, for instance, these are like these soft drinks, let me put it that way. They have some active ingredients in it that can destroy the drug in the stomach as you've taken it. But there are some that are completely harmless to the drug. For instance, I'll give you an example. Antibiotics, some of them need food to take because the energy you need for it to get into your bloodstream needs to be high. Now, there are some that need fatty acids because they are fat-soluble drugs. Now, these fatty acids help the drug break down and get to your bloodstream faster. And there's some drugs that you don't need to even take with food because what the food will do is it would slow down the absorption of the drug, meaning the drug won't have the desired effect at that time. Every drug or every time you take a drug, there's a window for it to act. And if that window is delayed, you have one of two things. Either the drug is very low at your bloodstream level where it's supposed to act because it's your blood that carries it to the receptors where it binds and now has the action. So that's the whole pharmacology part of it. So if it's not breaking down fast enough in your stomach to get to your bloodstream, that point of contact where you're supposed to have it, the drug concentration will be very low. And this is one of the things that encourages resistance to drugs. So meaning the infection you're trying to treat is not getting killed with so picture it this way. Let me break it down to you in the simplest way. Picture you have sent for 10,000 soldiers to come and they're on their way, but then there's a lot of obstacle blocking them. So the infection is 10,000 infection cells and is expecting 10,000 soldiers to come. But with all these obstacles, which is the food now, or these drinks, maybe only like 100 pass through. Now, the infection is like, okay, this is what you guys have. This is 100 of you. We can kill you easily. And we now know what you look like for the next time you send more people. So it's always dependent on the drug in question. Some anti-hypertensive drugs, some anti-diabetic. So I don't want to go into all the pharmacological names and all the pharmacological actions because you'll just be so confused. But I'll give you the general gist of it that most of these drugs have their actual activity relationship with food. Not all of them need food, and some people are scared to take it on an empty stomach because they think, oh, okay, it would make them dizzy. Or no, it's actually the drug in question does not need food because food will actually affect it the wrong way. So always ask, always clarify that. And carbonated drinks, not all of them have effects on drugs. Not all of them have bad effects. Some of them you can take to mask that taste. And if not carbonated drinks, there are some other, they call them plant-based beverages. Let me put it that way. For instance, your Zobo. Zobo, if made right, is actually one of the best taste maskers, if you can put it that way. You can take it with drugs. Not all drugs, like I said, you have to clarify. Always ask your pharmacist. Always ask, especially if you're on prescription medications. These ones, they even interact with each other. Some prescription medications you can't even take together. So you don't even want to complicate it by bringing food into the question. I hope I answered that as fast as I could, because I know we have 30 minutes here.
You did. And now I have many questions, and I need you all to represent your colleagues now, because I have been given some prescriptions in time past, and nobody told me about the time of food or what kind of food. So now I need you, Pharmacist Gerald, to tell me on behalf of your colleagues that the next time I have to take a drug, they will tell me the kind of food I need to eat with it or not.
Okay, so I want to believe that the reason we're having this conversation is so that you know for the next time. Some pharmacists, most of them probably don't even have the time to remember this, or they don't even know. Let me put it that way. Yeah, I'm not trying to defend I'm trying to educate people so that you know what to ask the pharmacist. Do you understand what I mean? So sometimes it's like, it's a knowledge that you have to keep on updating, because even the drugs that were valued back in the 90s are not effective today. So everything is changing in the world, and then it's always good to grab the education and the knowledge so that when the pharmacist or the doctor doesn't ask, you can say, hey, this is a prescription drug. What kind of food will interact with that? And they will be surprised that you asked because they don't expect patients to know these things, but I believe everyone should have the knowledge. It's very good when you actually know what you're taking into your body and how it affects you.
Thank you. And I feel like we just gave a huge go ahead to everyone who searches the internet for their symptoms as well as the drugs you're about to take and the side effects.
Well, no, not a go ahead in that way, because you would get lost on the internet. No, you would, because you would see several articles that would tell you a million things that would make your heart skip. So the go ahead here is to ask questions when you're in the presence of a health professional, and you have the right to get those answers because it is your body in question. Two people can take the same drug and have two different reactions to it. It's actually it's a different thing for different people. So you have the right to know these things. You have the right to ask questions. The internet is a wormhole. It will suck you in and it will take you from link to link to link. And before you know it, you think you have cancer. It's the most general thing on the internet. Anything causes cancer on the internet. So please ask questions to the health professional. That's the go ahead.
Thank you. I like how you talked about the individuality of healthcare and the body system. So that leads me to another question. When you give your drugs to someone else because it worked for you, and that is something that keeps coming up in a number of conversations, as well as day-to-day life, I see it, I hear it, and I sometimes cringe. So what do you say to that?
The question is what you give your
when you give somebody else your
hoping
drug
for the same effect.
Yes, for the same. When they say symptoms.
Okay, so I'll give you the simplest example is you're having a headache. It's so simple to give your friend Panadol or paracetamol, and it would most likely have the same effect because it's a general. The thing causing the headache for you might not be the same thing causing the headache for the other person, right? So yours might just be from stress, and you take your Panadol and it worked. The other person might have been predisposed to hypertension. So they've been having a consistent headache, and the headache doesn't go away with the Panadol just once. You have to now go get checked. If you take the Panadol, you see the headache is still there. You have to go get checked. It's not even all drugs you should share. This example I gave you because paracetamol or Panadol are over-the-counter drugs. These are medications you can buy yourself as a patient without having to, look too deep into it. But if you, God forbid, are having diabetes, for instance, and you have anti-diabetic medications, you can't just share with your friend that has diabetes and needs anti-diabetic medications because you might be having type 1, he's having type 2. Everything runs through getting diagnosed and getting an analytical check for yourself. The body is actually a car. Now, if you cannot take the same car to the same mechanic to do the same thing, you cannot do the same thing to your body. That's just how simple it is. So you can't just give medications out to your friend because you have it in there. Even down to period pain. 2 different women have 2 different things that work for them for period pain. So always ask questions, study your body, know what works for you, and run with it.
I do hope that puts it to rest and somebody is settled on that matter and we don't have to bring up this conversation again. Thank you for that. Now, moving on, earlier you were talking about the effectiveness with the analogy you gave. So what happens when you ought to take your drug every 8 hours or every 6 hours or every 5 hours and something happens and you're unable to take it at the stipulated time? Does it upset the cycle? How does it affect the effectiveness?
The simple answer is yes, it does. But the long-term answer is the less you miss, the better for you. Because I explained to you the drug table, if I should put it that way, is like a chart. So when you take the drug and it starts getting into your bloodstream, it's released into your bloodstream in doses. That dose rises to the concentration it needs to kill the bacteria. And after some time, it drops. That's why you need to take another one after 8 hours so that it goes back to that level. Now, if you miss that, it's like missing a bus. If you miss that that window, the drug doesn't rise up again at that time. So the infection is waiting. Hey, where's the next wave of attack? And it's not here. It's happy at that time, but let's say you're at work and you forgot, and then you get back home and you pop it in immediately. The next window rises. So it's okay, I would put it that way, if you miss a dose, but don't feel bad and then I'll say, oh, I've missed one, I'm not taking again. You've made the matter worse. So if you miss one, jump right back in. Immediately you remember it so that you can have that drug continue the wave of attack so that the infection doesn't relax too much and study your body cycle or the way the antibiotics or the anti drug works. So you're okay if you miss a dose, but try to limit it to as minimum as possible so that the drug still has its concentration. It's one of the key factors of resistance as well. The advice is don't miss your drug cycle, but if you do, jump right back in and continue. Start counting the 8 hours from when you remember and continue from there. Going on.
Thank you. Now, the next question is a funny question. And it's about those drugs, well, I think syrups that you have to take, and they tell you that you have to shake it, especially the solutions that somehow separates. So if you don't shake it or you forget to shake it, I want to assume that affects the effectiveness as well.
100%. 100% it does. Yeah.
Just curious about that one.
Because because the actual drug is on the bottom of what you didn't shake. So what you took on top is just like you just took water basically. So these drugs are called suspensions, and they all have different viscosity and different sedimentation rate. That's called sedimentation when the drug drops. So it's not the drug's fault. That's the way it's made. It's too heavy, can't all stay up. That's why it's suspended in that liquid. So if you want to have your active drug, you have to resuspend it. Let me put it that way. If not, all you're taking is the liquid that it was suspended in. The drug is just there at the bottom. That's why they'll tell you shake well before taking. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next one. Let's talk about malaria. There is the one that's I sometimes take malaria. Whenever I'm about to have malaria, I start to take malaria drugs in advance to deal with it. Is that okay?
So explain that to me. When you mean malaria drug in advance, you just buy a malaria drug and take? How do you even know you have malaria? That's my question. It's my turn to ask you that question. How do you even know you have malaria? What symptoms did you have? So everything is tailored to warning lights in your body. Think of your body like a car. When something is wrong, that light you see, check engine. The engine is not telling you what is wrong. It's just saying check engine. So that's what you're feeling at that time when you have that fever and you have your body aches. The engine light is on, check engine. You now have to take yourself to the shop and you just picture yourself as a car. It's the easiest way I actually get around taking good care of myself. Like you can't just now, my engine light is on, you open your bonnet and just pour water there or pour something on the engine or something and I feel it's better. No, you have to take it to the mechanic and he plugs in his machine and he scans your car and he sees what's wrong and he tells you, okay, you need to change this. That's how the body is. It's specific. So with malaria, the reason we are so endemic in this country, malaria, is because we've been told wrong. Even in my early days, we've just been told that, okay, malaria is the only thing that gives you body aches and loss of appetite and all of that. Like I said, education is advancing, it's changing, where there's even different strains of malaria. There are different strains that one will kill you faster than the other. And one gets you to cerebral malaria quicker than the other one would. So it's always good to check. The malaria test is very cheap. It comes out in 30 minutes. You know if it's malaria or not. Most likely, I'll tell you why most people just go and buy malaria drugs, because we're a malaria endemic country, meaning it's not a pandemic. Pandemic is global. Endemic is like having a pandemic in a country. Malaria is that. You basically have had malaria once a year at least, because it's mosquitoes are everywhere. Now, there are other things that could be causing that, not malaria. And even if it's malaria, you could be resistant to the drug you're always buying, the drug you've been buying as a child that maybe you didn't finish or you didn't take properly. So you always have to do a test to know the exact strain and know what drugs are very well effective with that. The malaria drug, when you feel like your body is getting in that symptom, it will make you even more resistant to malaria. So always do a check, always do a lab test and find out what it is and treat it. It could be typhoid, it could even be malaria. And typhoid is a whole different ballgame. So I'll just explain that. With typhoid, you don't just do a blood test and say, "Oh, I have typhoid," because the weed-out test that they do for typhoid, it's even outdated now. It doesn't even specify when you had the typhoid or if you have it at that time. You have to still do a stool culture and get that test after 3 days to see, okay, there's salmonella in my stool, meaning I've eaten something that's infected me and it's present in my stool. I hope I broke that down as simple as I could. Yeah.
Yes, you did. And I think if there is one thing to derive from that or infer from that, it's that I don't think it's mosquitoes that give you typhoid, as many people allude to.
Oh, yes. 100%. 100%. It does not. Does not at all. Yeah,
Because
go on. You were saying because
I've had people say that when you have malaria in your body for too long, it turns into typhoid. And I'm just thinking, who told you that?
I really, that's the internet. That's that thing you see where the internet drives you down the wormhole or something. But no, it's not even related in any way. Before you would always see that, okay, the malaria symptoms are similar to typhoid symptoms, but even typhoid symptoms are evolving. They're not all the same now. So it's always, all the infections are in different forms. Let me put it that way. It's one thing doesn't treat all, and one infection doesn't infect a whole house. You can have a whole house of 10 people and only 2 have malaria, but the mosquito is literally everywhere. Some people are carriers and it doesn't, come out in symptoms, and other people it just blows out like that.
Great.
A different topic for another day, don't worry.
True. On WhatsApp, Wilson says, it's so beautiful hearing from a professional. I'm learning a lot, and my mindset about certain drugs-related issues has changed. Such a good conversation. Thank you, Mr. Pharmacist. He is Pharmacist Gerald. Another reason I love Smooth FM. Well, if you have any contribution, you can send it to WhatsApp, or if you have any question, WhatsApp line is 0809 444 0981. Back to the question. This one is still about malaria drugs. And it's the conversation of vitamin C, that if you take vitamin C, I think you mentioned it when you gave that really lengthy discussion about drug interaction and food interaction. So for vitamin C specifically, does it really inhibit the effectiveness of malaria drugs?
So this with drugs, everything is an experiment, right? You read an article that would say, "Oh, vitamin C has no effect on it, but just avoid it anyway." And you see some articles that says, "Oh, the ascorbic acid inhibits the kind of malaria drug you're taking." So it's not even for all malaria drugs. Let me put it there first. It's actually for the ACTs, the artemisinin combination therapy. That's the most common malaria drug, the coartems, the Lonats. These are the ones that the ascorbic acid, the vitamin C, affects. Now, the safest bet is avoid it, right? Because there's so much science-based research on it. And the long story is, it doesn't affect it per se, but they will still advise you to avoid it, because there are other things that might be in that vitamin C combination that might denature the combination of the malaria drug. It's artemisinin lumefantrine, artemether lumefantrine. It's an artemisinin combination therapy, artemether lumefantrine. Both of them do different things. The artemether there is an antioxidant. It does what vitamin C does, creating free radicals that it now needs to mop up. So the safest bet is to avoid it, because there's so much research saying, okay, it denatures one of those components. But there's other research that'll tell you it doesn't affect it. So it's really a biased thing. But I always tell my patients, avoid it. It's the safest thing because the human body, like I said, is different. Another person's body, the drug might be absorbed quicker and the vitamin C has no effect on it. And another person's body, the vitamin C will have an effect on it. The safest bet is just to avoid it. Take it later because vitamin C helps later on to build back your immunity. So, but in that space of time where you're taking the anti-malaria drug, it's just safer to avoid it.
Great. I hope somebody has clarity on that. Let's talk about runny stomach. Someone says, each time I have a runny stomach, I take metronidazole, popularly known as Flagyl, to stop the frequent toilet visits. Am I right to do that?
Now, back to what I said earlier about drugs being evolving, the treatment plans evolving. So Flagyl or metronidazole, it's an antibiotic and antiprotozoan medication used to treat a number of infections, right? One of them is diarrhea. So the runny stomach is most likely linked to diarrhea in most cases. Sometimes it's just purging. It's a symptom of trying to flush out the system. So there's no infection there. Do you understand that so far? So with runny stomach, it could be an infection or it could just be a symptom that's a reaction, your body's response to something you ate, for instance. And it doesn't necessarily come with an infection. So with the Flagyl, it only takes care of the runny stomach when there's an infection. It's called an amoebiasis or something. It's a very funny infective agent. So it's that infection that the Flagyl kills. And when that infection is gone, the runny stomach stops. But if you're just having a runny stomach, and it could be you ate something bad the day before, something peppery, for instance, if you eat a lot of pepper is one of the biggest irritants in your digestive system, meaning pepper triggers your motility. Food moves faster when pepper, and it breaks down faster. So you will most likely have a runny stomach and a peppery bum the next day. And that doesn't mean you need to take Flagyl because there's no infection there. It's just your body's reaction to that bad food or that thing you ate. But now if you have diarrhea, Flagyl will work if it's effective to that infective agent. I don't know if I explained that correctly. Yeah. That thing causing the diarrhea, Flagyl will take care of. Now, the thing is there are better antibiotics to take care of that diarrhea. If you do a stool culture and find out what is the most effective or sensitive drug to it. But Flagyl is just the go-to thing because it's very affordable and it's very easily accessible. But it's not for every runny stomach. So the safest thing is just to take loperamide, which is Imodium, I'm sure you've heard of. That helps seize the runny stomach if it's something that has gone on for a long time. But I would always advise, the runny stomach is your body's way of helping you out. It means something you ate needs to get out of your body. And it's trying to do that as fast as possible. So my first advice is, if it's bad food, let it run. Instead, take more fluids to replace the fluids you're losing. Let it flush all the way out, and then you can continue your day. But if you have a busy day and you don't want that inconvenience, loperamide is a safer option than Flagyl, because Flagyl, you might just take Flagyl and you won't see it working because it's not an infection. It's not treating anything. So it's not going to stop the runny stomach. And even if it's an infection, it might not even be the bacteria that Flagyl will take care of. So you always have to understand these things before just going, oh, give me Flagyl, and you just take it. And then when it doesn't work, you think, oh, the pharmacist sold you a fake drug or something like that. It's actually everything. The way drugs work is when it gets into your body, there's a reason that drug is made. It's made tailored to the receptor that makes it work. So it doesn't even work for every part of your body. It works directly for that thing that is causing that problem. So it's always good to understand that it's not just every medication you just take at the same time. I hope we're good on that. So not all runny stomach is diarrhea, and Flagyl doesn't do magic for all runny stomachs.
Thank you. Charles Chidozie on WhatsApp says, no pepper slander will be condoned on this show. Please let's tread carefully. Nobody's slandering pepper. I hate pepper. And I think I have an additional
Are
reason
you
why I should
serious?
stay away from spicy and peppery foods. I don't like it because it's too much
Why?
pain to my tongue.
Now you're slandering. You're the one slandering pepper here. But it's
Fully.
all like for the person that wrote that, she's probably immune to pepper. It's probably a thing where it's not for everyone. Some people can chew raw pepper and they won't have runny stomach. So that's that thing about everyone's body is different. It's irritating to some people's digestive system, and the other person will just have a normal day. So tell whoever, I don't know the name, it's okay. Their body is stronger for pepper than other people. That's why. Okay.
My body's definitely not strong to pepper. All right, moving on. Austin from
Yeah.
Satellite says, good morning. Is it good to take drugs that supplement and herbal medicine on the same day?
Again, drugs are very unique. Herbs are very general. Let me put it that way. Herbs are what we survived as the human race back in the day. I mean, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, some of the drugs today they're going to be clueless with. What they did was cut a few moringa leaves, they crushed it, they gave you to drink, and your fever went, and your this happened or that happened, and it cleared off. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So the good thing about it is with pepper, I said not pepper, sorry. With
Herbal
herbs,
medicine.
because pepper is actually a herb, yeah. With herbs, you can have a general function for something that you're trying to treat with that drug that you're taking together with it. So it will interact. It will now overshadow the drug itself and limit the activity of that drug. But it doesn't happen for all supplements or all drugs together. It could be that herb is just a booster for that drug. There are some anti-diabetic herbs. There are some anti-diabetic herbs that help an anti-diabetic drug. But at the end of the day, it's always to study the combination to see, does the herb give a positive feedback to the drug, or does it stop the drug from working?
Thank you. It looks like Charles Chidote is about the message or the gospel of pepper this morning. And he says, you see, I've been eating pepper since I was a kid. I love the heat it gives to the body. Well, good for you, Charles. On eating. KB from Oregon says, good morning. I just ate pepper fruit and wanted to know what is the nutrients. I'm guessing.
You say what?
Pepper fruit.
Pepper, the actual pepper.
The fruits, pepper fruits. There is a fruit called pepper fruit. I'm guessing that can be found online.
If he's talking about the maybe bell peppers or the actual pepper.
No, there is a
fruit.
Yeah, no, there is a fruit called pepper fruit. So you have it in the green variant and you have it in the I know it. And orange variant. It's usually spicy when you take it.
Really?
Yeah. You probably
maybe it's called something else that I know, but I've never heard it as pepper fruit. Actually, I have to check it out.
I don't know if you can. Yeah, you can check it out.
What does it look like?
It looks like.
No, I will check it out. So
yeah,
does it look like pepper? Does it look like pepper?
The description that comes to my mind is pretty gross, and I don't want to throw off KB from already, because what comes to my mind is not very palatable.
Really?
So I'll just do it. But I think
I will check it out.
Yeah. So I think you can check out the benefits online.
Yeah, but the simplest answer is that most or all fruits have phytonutrients. That's what they're made of. That's what makes it what it is. So definitely you would have benefits from that fruit as well, because I have not seen one fruit that doesn't have one or two benefits to the body. Either it helps as an antioxidant, helping you mop up your stress cells. Like the way oxidative stress is one of the quickest things to make you sick. And it comes when you're overstressed. So that's why you even see an apple a day keeps the doctor away. That apple helps, with oxidative stress and other vitamins as well. So you see phytonutrients in that food, definitely. I don't know the food personally, but I'm sure you will, definitely.
Yeah, he said the botanical name here. Denetia tripletella, I believe.
Mm,
Yeah. Okay, so I have more people sending messages
yes.
about the pepper fruit. You'd find it online.
Mm,
I see you, Peter Olumuyiwa. Thank
mm,
you. Okay, Charles Chidozie. I see your message as well. He said it's very good for fighting against cold. Guess what? I have them too. Okay, with
mm.
pepper fruit family. Yeah. You
He's
do
a
love your
pepper
pepper.
fan for sure.
I'm not. I'm not a part
Uh-huh.
of this WhatsApp group.
He's a pepper fan for sure. Mm,
So we are out of time, but one question I just want us to touch on finally before we go. I think you've said it again,
mm,
but I think one thing today
mm.
is we keep saying the same thing in a number of ways so that it's clear to everyone. So this is a question
Yeah,
about I
yeah.
feel much
Mhm,
better after taking my medication thrice. Can I stop taking them?
mhm. Oh no, you cannot. No, simple and straightforward answer, you cannot. And if there's anything you can take out of this conversation is that a drug has to take its full journey. You can't stop it halfway. If you stop it halfway, don't take the drug ever again because most likely it will never work for you again. Every drug is like a soldier trained to kill. And if you've started it on that journey and you say, okay, you know what, the people there, okay, now I think, and you stop it halfway. When the drug needs to work again, it's not even going to. The body is going to react way differently to it. It won't work. I have people that almost all antibiotics don't work for them anymore. It's only the most expensive ones because at some point in their childhood or growing up, when they took the drug, or either they missed it, or yeah, I feel better, they threw it away, or they even mixed like okay, they started with this one, and 2 days later they felt it wasn't working, and they just changed it themselves. I've actually had a patient that did that with their mom. So started her on this anti-malarial. He felt it wasn't working for her. He changed it to another one. He changed it to like 3 other ones, and I was shocked. You don't have the capacity to do something like that. Your body is not like drugs are poisons. Let me give you that catchphrase to take home with. Drugs are poisons. That's the reason it kills the bacteria or the fungi or the virus. So it's trained to kill. And if you don't let it kill, you're wasting that drug and you're making the infection stronger so that the next time you take it, it will not work. So when you feel better, that's even more reason to kill off the bacteria or the infection. So that at the end of the day, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the infection clears completely. So when you feel better, please continue for the 7 days that the doctor or the pharmacist prescribed it for. And then you feel much better. And next time, the infection is even scared to reactivate because your immune system builds on what you've treated.
Hmm. I feel like a lot of Nigerians will be
Yeah.
worried now.
No, it's not a thing to be worried about. This is the reason you have to do tests more because, yes, growing up, we've been doing all kinds of things with drugs. And then now we don't even know what works. So whatever you feel in your body, go in for a check. Whatever they tell you, go in and get the drugs and take them and feel better and continue your life. Your health will humble you. Health is one thing you cannot play with. It will cancel your meetings, it will cancel your flights, it will cancel your vacation, it will humble you. So take it very seriously. Mhm.
And that's the best way to wrap up this segment. Thank you very much, Pharmacist Gerald. It's been
You are
wonderful and
welcome.
enlightening having this. I think we should have a part 2, part 3, part 4 of this conversation later on different topics on medication
Yeah, sure.
because health is important and the education
It is.
is vital. So we need to do this
It's
again.
fast. Sure. Sure. I'm happy to. Thank you for
Thank
having me as well.
So you can check out Pharmacist Gerald on Instagram at @fam_Gerald. That's PHARM_GERALD. And check out more content about health education that he has there. But for us, we are done for today. Next week, we'll go again from 8 to 8:30 on Smooth 98.1, educating you about your health and wellness. But in 2 or 3 minutes' time, I'll be with the children on the show called Curious Minds. Let's spell right here on Breakfast in Bed. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun.
mind, and the rest will follow.
Woo!
All right.